All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for jumping on a couple minutes early. We're going to go ahead and get started. Before we jump in with our awesome conversation between me and Carlos, we'd like to have Sam give us a quick movement mortgage update. How are we looking, Sam? Hold on, got to unmute you. There we go.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I was looking at, just rates this year. It's kind of interesting. They trended down all January, trended up all February, down all March, and then they're trending up for most of April, which is just a coincidence. The calendar month has nothing to do with rate trends, but that's where we've been. So which leaves it kind of in the same range. FHA rates have been the mid upper fives, conventional low to mid sixes, and then some of the better priced jumbo loans are right around 6 or so. With kind of the biggest challenges for buyers still being, lack of inventory and affordability issues, but there's activity. But I mean, the activity is definitely increasing, but we're still challenges with those two things.
Okay. I've heard something when I got back from my spring break, Sam, there was talks about 20% down payment borrowers are having to pay more. I think that's the talk of the town this week. Can you shed some light on that?
Well, this has been out for a few months, the loan level pricing adjustments, I think. These, I don't know how granular you want me to get, but they're, Fannie and Freddie have adjustments to their fee based on down payment, credit score, loan type, loan to value, even debt to income now. And most of the adjustments have gotten worse. For people that are putting more down and have really good credit, it's got a little better. But for most people, you're going to see the adjustments are a little bit worse. We're talking in most cases a quarter to a half in fee, which just gets rolled into the rate. So basically what this is going to do is rates will go up an eighth to a quarter for most people. And this has kind of been rolling out. They announced it a few months ago, and it's kind of different lenders have been rolling it out at different times because you have to activate it within a certain date. So I think the actual I think everybody's got it now as of this week. I think probably is why you're hearing about it more.
Yeah, it's like May 1st, and I think it's hit national news or something too.
Yeah, so I mean, I believe it was based on the close date. So most lenders incorporated it, a month or two ago. So it's already been priced in. We did, I think, 2 months ago. So no differences with most lenders, but I mean, we talked about this, probably don't remember, but it was like 3 months ago.
I remember we talked about it. I just didn't know if it was official, and it sounds like it is.
So yes. And some lenders we're holding off to the last minute and maybe just keeping the loans on their books to keep the pricing as long as they can. But it is, and one thing, if you have just a second, is the new thing they added was a rate add-on for debt to income. So that was never an actual pricing thing. So if your debt to income ratio was over, I think it's 45 or 40, there's an add-on to the fee. So movement is eating that because it's a big problem. Because what if you lock a loan with somebody and the credit changes or the rate changes or something happens? You can't change the rate midstream. So that is one thing that movement is if there is any debt to income add-ons, we're eating that fee.
Okay. So from a sales standpoint, really, I mean, we've known about this a long time. So we're looking to just kick it into gear, and even a little change like that can stir up activities, what I'm hearing from you.
And I would say 80% of the lenders have had this priced into their rates for a good month or more already. So it's not a good thing, but it's also kind of a non-issue. It's not any difference than 1 or 2 bad days of rates is how I look at it.
Awesome. Well, I hope that helps you guys. If you have any questions, you can just reach out to Sam directly. He can be messaged on the chat, or if you have questions about any clients, you certainly can reach out to him. Movement Mortgage is doing a great job for us. We've got a few applications in the queue right now, and I'm actually meeting with the regional manager tomorrow morning. So I'm seeing Randy out here in Spokane, Sam. So it's like we're catching up with each other over on the east side.
Nice.
So excited to do that. So to jump right in, Carlos Willcuts is our guest for tonight. I'm very pleased to have him. He is a Rookie of the Year for 2022. And so he's definitely not a rookie status anymore. He's in top producer as well. But I wanted to pick his brain because he did come to Best Choice Realty as a new broker. So I'd love to know your background, Carlos. You want to share that with us?
Well, first of all, it's a tremendous honor for me to be here with all of you. Some of you I've met in person, and some of you like to see you at some of our offices and say hello. My background with this entire industry actually started in lending. I had a very rough and tumble getting started in the lending side of real estate for about 2 or 3 years. Definitely not as successful as Mr. Sam, but it taught me a lot of what the background and how to structure, let's just call them deals and files, specific to my community. I started with a bank that is based out of Las Vegas called Altera. And basically that was how I got started in the industry and got to see the behind the scenes. And it was very focused in the Hispanic community. So I was able to kind of engage with that and understand the things that are very unique to that community.
What made you decide to switch over? I mean, I know we'd opened the Linwood office, I think is what we had done. And you came as a mortgage lender to support our grand opening up there in that office that you're sitting in. I can see you're in Linwood right now.
Yes.
And you had talked to me, but it was more of high level. What made you decide to switch over and, go more into the real estate side of things?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of different things, but mainly it was the service part. I had the unfortunate pleasure of working with agents that I got to see what needed sometimes to happen in order to make a deal work. And what I say, it's really about the service part. And the person that the client remembers, in my opinion, this is my opinion, is not usually the lender. It's the agent that delivers the keys. And that's no judgment on anything. It's just that is the last person they see sometimes on the transaction. And I realized that they have a lot of impact in transforming the experience. So I decided, and I happened to know Nick at the time, got to meet you here at the Linwood office, and it just seemed like a natural switch. And plus, I thought maybe I could bring something a little unique.
And you like to do some good things for fun. So give them a background of what are your hobbies that probably drives some of your team members. I've got to meet some of your team members. What is your hobbies?
Well, yeah, we're kind of all over the place. We love good wine, but we love to play soccer. We like to travel, but we also like to work very hard and very late. So those are actual hobbies that we actually enjoy. And anyone who's worked in the offices knows that we stand by that, but mainly soccer for sure.
Okay. And then is it a requirement for you guys, anybody that works in your team, to speak a different language, bilingual? Is that a requirement, or is that just something that naturally happened?
It's something that naturally happened, but I will tell you, the person that really helps me, basically, for lack of a better term, do the transaction coordinating, does not speak any Spanish. Stacy Thomas works with us, and she helps us with a lot of that stuff, and she understands the culture. She's engaged with it, but doesn't speak Spanish. And I think that's actually a good thing for us, because we would never advertise as just one person that only works with the Hispanic community. That's just where we happen to be placed at. That's just where it happens to be that we have engaged with that community and they're responding to our message.
That's awesome. So what motivated you to start like a team?
Yeah. To me, it was being in a cubicle was tough. So I have a lot of admiration for the lender, the LOA that starts off in a cubicle and works with numbers all day. Gosh. So for me, it's not about what you do, it's who you get to do it with. One of the reasons why we're so connected is we play on teams together. We get to hang out together. I think I was talking to someone at the dinner that we had, the celebration. Someone said, so you guys work together and you hang out together. Yeah, that's why work doesn't feel like work sometimes. It's who you get to do things with. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think we talked about that, and that's why I love what I do too, is it's like a big family, right? We spend time during the day, and then outside of, it's like we have to turn it on. And even with Shannon, my sister, it's like turn it on or turn it off. Like, are we sisters now? Are we are we doing this? But it's so interrelated, what we do. It's all to help others and to better other people's life. So I've noticed that with your team. So what motivates you to get up and do, business, like big goals that I know you work with your team on that. What motivates you?
Yeah. So very, very personal to me is the fact that I sense there's a gap in my community. I'm from Mexico, by the way. So, and to me, I realized in the lending side, I got to see a lot of no's. And I placed myself in a position where I realized that I have a responsibility to the ecosystem of businesses in my community. And so working with the Hispanic community, or for any of you that are working with a unique or specific community, what it is you might be offering something to that community. And so I realized even today, our message today was, this is what I do. I serve my community with real estate transactions, with advice, with all of that. That's what I come with. I don't come with any more or any less. And when the going gets tough, or when, they look to me to help solve those issues, right? And so that's my motivation. That when, for example, when we put out a word for, we need support for a certain event, and the people respond and show up, that people are engaged with our social media posts and things like that, that realize that you're part of something a lot bigger. You're just playing your role in that community. So that motivates me.
So walk me through, like, what is Carlos's week in the life of the day in the life of Carlos? What does that look like on a week by week basis?
So
is it pretty flexible, or is it pretty systematized of this is what I do on Monday, this is what I do on Wednesday? Do you have like kind of a weekly plan that you stick to?
Yeah. So I'm a Coug, so I need systems. So to me, what it is it was very important to kind of put a day specific, or else I'm gonna get sidetracked. So for example, Mondays are prospecting days. They're big on, for me, it's been key to prospect, to take care of the contracts that are coming in, make sure I communicate with Best Choice and send over contracts and things, but it's mostly a prospecting day. Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're all set up for appointments. I like to meet with the people, not just once, but twice before we even take them out shopping. I like to do that. Wednesdays are kind of my soccer days, so I don't necessarily do anything, but those are the days that also become prospecting days, because when you're not necessarily engaged, that's when everybody wants to call you.
Well, you're probably prospecting on the field,
Yeah, well, and we've gotten a couple of deals from that. The thing is, you show up as you are and you bring what you bring. People always want to know, what do you do? Well, this is what I happen to do, and leave it there. And many people, I've never asked someone if you want to buy a house and they've told me no. Mostly what happens is, yeah, I would like to. How do you do that? That's what I find in my sphere, right? That oh, I would love to. How do you go about doing that? And that's where we engage. And so weekends are for showing. So I have it pretty segmented in that. So we only do showings on weekends. Appointments are Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we're so lucky that we get to use the offices that we have, because I don't know how we would do that. I remember when I first started doing some appointments at Starbucks, that was getting pretty expensive.
So you've got expenses. That's pretty clever. So you've looked at ways to leverage the office spaces and the staff. And I think that helps overall in your week by week planning. I mean, if you can do real estate with less overhead, I think that's kind of the goal, right?
And I have to say that the level of trust that we have at Best Choice is huge, because we pull in some good hours. And so I really appreciate that. And talking to other colleagues, I realize that's not the norm in other offices or in other places. And so we're very lucky to have that trust. So thank you.
So I'm going to kind of go off the rail a little bit here. So Carlos, your goals in your first year, can you share with the group what your first year goal was?
Yeah. So it would be very cocky to say I had like these amazing goals and I hit them. No, my thing was just to get started. If you were to ask me, hey, what would you want to change from when you started? I would like to have had a heads up that COVID was going to get that bad, right? My first year was COVID. I made the Willcuts homes, branding and all that stuff. And I did not know, and we were established in October and did all of that. And by December, we had the office, we had signed up and everything. Well, January comes and we're getting shut down, right? And so one of my first weeks is when the governor had said, so I would have wanted to know that. I think for me, that was one of those big shockers, right? So I had goals, but quickly, so many things went left and right that it would be tough for me to tell you I had this goal. What I have said henceforth, though, is every year I have to beat myself, period. Every year I have to beat my transaction amount. And so the count has been going up for 3 years straight, and we're on track to beat last year's number this year. So we have those.
Okay. So have you established a formula? I think I played with your whiteboard one time. And it was interesting. I will share this because I think it's fun to have a little competitive nature with yourself. I think there's plenty of people I think I posted that as competitiveness is not a healthy behavior unless you can compete with yourself and really work towards your goals and hit those goals. So Carlos had written some goals on his whiteboard he had in his office, and I decided to erase them and stretch him and give him a little bit more on the whiteboard because I wanted him to embrace listings. So at what point did you think, I'm going to just go ahead and tackle that? Was that me goofing around on your whiteboard, or was that something that you intentionally went after because you felt the need to do?
I think the coaching that you bring, you and the whole team brings, of always being encouraging is big, because it's something that I have to confess I try to stay away from. It wasn't my comfort zone. And so we went after it, that we were just willing. I mean, it got to that point where I just had to be open to it and take those calls and then go and pursue them, right? Because at this point, we're at that point where people who we helped in our first year are actually starting to sell, right? And so being also that resource for the people that we helped at the beginning. So not just what was on the whiteboard, not just the challenge of, hey, by the end of this year, I want you to have at least this amount of listings, but also the ability to call and say, Rashad, I got a question because I don't know what I'm doing here, is huge. And that's to you, that's to Shannon, who, I mean, you guys always pick up and you always respond. So that really is the X factor, because I would venture to say that a lot of us sometimes don't try things because we don't know if we're going to succeed at them. But it's nice to know that you got someone that's going to have your back and you can go to battle and really face whatever challenge comes your way.
Cool. That's awesome. Thanks for the endorsement, Carlos. I appreciate it, but I didn't pay you for that. How have you scaled your business? You starting out as a solo agent, but you started with a team right away. You knew the value of a team from the beginning. But how was the team changed, or how have you scaled it so that you can essentially do more with less?
Yeah. Well, my first big investment was on people, not necessarily in other things, but on people. And I knew that certain talents were going to help me get there. I do a lot of the initial conversations and all of that, but they're helping me go out and catch more, so to speak. That's my job, to inform, to be that resource. And they are extraordinary at what they do, at having those conversations. So when the client calls, there is no excuse of I was too busy or anything like that. They get great service. The thing that we promote is we're at your service. We say that and we mean it and we're about it. So much so that the people know who they need to call at whatever point in the transaction. And they're always going to have someone that is ready to engage them and answer their questions and all of that. Sometimes one can't do it all by themselves. And so I'm very lucky and blessed that I have that. How have I scaled it? Well, by repeating certain behaviors. So one of the things I like to tell people is I redeem my drive. Right now, I live in Renton and I drive to Linwood once a week at least. I try. If not, I'm going to South Center. But in that drive, I'm not listening necessarily to tunes. I'm making my calls because I know my team's going to update me on certain things. I've got contracts I got to take a look at. So I'm redeeming my time in my car, and I'm making those calls and making sure that I don't miss, people's questions and stuff. Because the community will answer. They'll call if they're ready to, and then they will tell someone, right? Especially after you've had a good conversation where they feel like they were listened to, where they were served. They will go and tell someone. I guarantee it. And I don't think that's unique to the Hispanic community. I think that's all across the board.
I agree 100%. And I think it's being responsive. So it sounds like when you're not available, there's always somebody that your team can pick up the slack. I think that's one thing I've noticed from afar is how you've scaled is you've, taught them how to respond, and you've got enough coverage to help with anybody when they ever have a question. So it's pretty much around the clock, isn't it?
It really is, but at the same time, it's specific, right? I know my role and I know what I have to do, and they know their role, and then they just scale it in that sense, right? So for example, just to say something super brief, Stacy helps me with the contracts. And so once they're there, the whole idea of dealing with escrow and all of that stuff, well, my talent's not best used dealing with escrow, but hers is. And there's no big difference. It's something that gets done, right? And so I see huge value in that, and so does she. And so that's how we're dividing up the work, and I think that helps a lot.
So you have so somebody on your team is your transaction person, your operations person, your scheduler. Am I missing anybody? And you've got
now we have Derek as well, and so he's helping develop certain things on social media. We're trying to stay ahead. Our main focus is the second generation Hispanic. We realize they're looking for flyers, they're looking at Reels, they're looking at TikTok, they're looking at Instagram. So we're hitting that very heavy. We believe that we need to show up where they are. So I've sold at least 2 and working on 3 more. The biggest restaurants in the Hispanic community, we've helped them. And so they're allowing us to help their employees. They're people that are buying with us because that's where we were spending our dollars. That's where we were showing up. That's where we had an office where we didn't have an office. That's, just showing up where you are and just telling people what you do, it will work wonders.
Awesome. Where do a majority of your clients come from? You said that it's not just the Hispanic community. Are you buying leads from Redfin or forming partnerships, referrals?
I would say partnerships. You can't do it alone. I mean, you definitely can't. And so partnerships are important, but partnerships across different disciplines, so to speak. So partnerships with restaurant owners, definitely. Partnerships with people who own other businesses. When you lift them up for what they're doing, but then you show them, this is what I do. Showing up at certain events that the community holds, you just have to show up as you are and what you do. You can't hide it. And you're not necessarily trying to sell, but you're showing up as what you are. And I'm a resource. So just let me know. Here's my card. I'm younger, but I still use business cards. I still think those old tricks still work. They're important. And so that's been my thing is to, but buying leads and things, that has not worked for me. But, through a lot of relational work out in the community, nonprofits too, believe it or not. So there's a lot of that once you show up, once people know your face, they know you're open for business, they're going to call you, and that might not be the initial deal, but once you connect with them, serve them. I have people who I've talked to 4 years ago that are saying, hey man, you really took the time to talk to me. I appreciate you. And I didn't know who he was. He was someone who had just came from Colombia. I didn't realize later on that he was a tech engineer for Starbucks. Wow. So I've gotten 2 deals out of that. And that's just picking up the phone and having a conversation. And it was a lengthy one, and it didn't pay off until 2 or 3 years after.
So it's like nurturing relationships, you would say, would be one source of business for you. Affiliated businesses. Do you have a third one where you think, is it mostly closed clients at this point or referrals?
Yeah, Yeah, for sure. At 3 points in every transaction, we engage the client to ask, hey, if you know anybody that wants to buy a house, please let them know. Here are links, right?
Did I hear that correctly? You did it 3 times. There's 3 touch
At 3
points.
points in every transaction, we will, for lack of a better term, ping them to engage and to refer us to their people. So one of the things that I see is social media is great because that's their sphere. So the moment that they refer you, they're referring you to their sphere, right? And so I work very hard to get those referrals, that photo, that post, that Facebook review, that engagement helps us out a lot because these people have people that follow them, that know them, that love them. So when they see us helping them, that's validation, instant validation. And so asking for that referral, letting them know that that's how we keep our business going and how we're ready to help their friend is I would say that third piece. But we're intentional about, asking them for referrals, intentional at 3 points in every transaction.
No, that's quite good. I think that's something that I could aspire to do even, Carlos, as far as that goes. How do you stay in touch with all of these people? Do you use a system or is it just pen to paper, notebook? Is it old fashioned or is it new fashioned? What is it?
Yeah. When I first started, I wrote everything down in notebooks. I had names in notebooks and phone numbers and little notes. At this point, what we've done is, again, how do we stay lean and mean, right? So I don't have a lot of necessarily money to be investing in systems. So what we've decided to do is, because I have a large team, we're making sure we have them on social media, all of it. We make sure. So we send birthday. We make sure we at the second meeting we take down their birthday and anniversary if they're married. And so what Jayma and I will do is we'll make a little video and we'll send it. Super easy. And if we have them on social media, it's simpler because it's a longer video. And if we not, we can just text them. We keep our records on that sense. And so on our calendar, I'll know. And I learned this from a lot of the groups that we're in, is just keeping up. So just a birthday video, so it's not a text, it's a video. It's just kind of that extra, wow, they remembered, right? It wasn't just a transaction. So I just did 7 videos last week from Arizona. Like, hey, happy birthday. Just want to let you know, I'll see you there. Let me know if I can bring the carne, right? What were we doing for your birthday? And so it's just a relational thing. That's a great excuse to stay in touch.
That's great. What is the number one objection you hear from buyers about the marketplace? And how
location.
Location.
My biggest issue with my community, this is unique to me at least, is that location. So I have to educate my clients because for them it's, I want to live here in King County and I want to live, really close to where I'm at right now, right? At 450, right? Purchase price. Like, it's fine. It's no big deal. But I sometimes I have to speak to them like, hey, your dollar will go a little further in these areas. And that has been perhaps the struggle that I'm in right now. But the only way to overcome it is by saying, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's try it this way. Let's do it. And in just engaging with it, I had a client who from Bellevue, from my coaching days, they called me and they said, we will never live in Tacoma, ever. Please don't send me anything from Tacoma. I don't know what stigma they got, but whatever. Well, guess what? We got them an amazing new build in Tacoma and they're as happy as can be. Right.
And that was a couple of years ago. They said no Tacoma. That's
fun. But it's the, okay, we're going to have to play the long game on this. And I am willing to invest that time because people are going to come to that house, right? That's going to be the best referral ever. People are going to come visit that family, and we Latinos, we party a lot. So that's a lot of referrals. And so to me, it's important that they get a house that they're proud of and they don't feel like, I barely got this or anything like that. I don't want them to be very proud of it. So it does take a few more showings, but eventually they get to that point. So yeah.
Okay. Have you turned down a client? Have you been in the business long enough where you've had the opportunity to say, I'm going to say no to this one?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Would you? Don't give us names, but can you share what happened and why you turned them down?
Pretty affluent person. We were closely related, but plain and simple to me, my approach is slow and steady. I say it on all my marketing. I say it in videos. I'm not hiding that. My approach is slow and steady. I don't know if it's just my brain or whatever. And there are people that need service like this. And I am one of the ones that says, I may not be the person you want to work with. I will drive you crazy with my 2 meetings, and I will drive you crazy because I like to do things a certain way and I know it works. So I sometimes you catch it because it's such a good amount that you're like, I'm being honest, that you're like, all right, fine, I'll go ahead and do it. But time and time I've realized that that's not my strength. That's not my gifting. I'm not one that can just jump on and write it up and not know how the lending side is going to merge with the contract and not do my due diligence, because I know that that works for me and it lets me sleep better at night. Whereas I don't have to always, push contracts back and say, okay, we're not doing this or anything. So I'm very honest about that. And I say it very upfront. I'm slow and steady. If you're cool with that, we're going to work great. If we're not, that's totally fine. You'll enjoy someone that will show you a bunch of homes and you'll have a grand old time. This just, I stay in my gifting. I don't go out of it.
It sounds like you're authentic to yourself, Carlos, and you've built a solid system. And so at that point, it's just replicate, rinse and repeat, right? And it's always helping that end in mind is to help that buyer or that seller accomplish their goal. So it's not like but you're true to yourself. A lot of people, I think, try to be somebody that they're not, or they look at, maybe they look over the fence and say, this person's hitting it out of the park because they're doing this lead source and that lead source, and they're not true to themselves, and they're trying to, and so they might have hit some home runs, out the gate pretty fast, but then it's not that like slow and steady kind of wins the race type of mindset that you have going into it. So that was helpful.
Well, we're in it for the long run, so we're not looking to,
I know
to
you
quit.
guys. And your goals, you want to share with the group of what your goal is, even with the market the way it is? You guys
we're going to beat last year for sure. We are going to be at the dinner for sure. We know it. We're declaring it, and we know that we're on track for that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
There was a couple questions. Are you okay to stay for just like 5 more minutes, Carlos?
100%, as long as you'll have me.
Okay. Celeste had a question to everybody, and I guess it was directed to Carlos. Have you found a niche with the I-10 buyers? So if you're not doing mortgages, who are you referring people to? Is there something that you can?
I'll keep it very surface, and I know Sam has some knowledge on this as well. I will tell you the I-10 program, in my opinion, just my opinion alone, is a tough program, and it's tough. I try to work around it if I can. I try to find different ways so we don't have to do it that way. But yeah, that is something that is available. I have yet to actually do an I-10 loan, in the sense that, to actually close an I-10 file. I have not closed one, because there's other resources, and there's a plethora of work permits and things that we can do. And so I try very hard to avoid that if I can.
So you basically are consulting people through that process.
Yeah, I feel like I have to, because there's a misconception that home ownership's not for me, just because this and this and that. And so it's my responsibility, and the people I listen to and the mentors and the people I respect is the lender, because they're the ones that are going to tell me this is possible, this is not possible, right? So I'm not out there selling things that they're just never going to happen, right? I have heard horror stories from those kinds of things. There was a program, if you'll just have me for a sec, that they were out there saying, oh, there's this amazing 3% I-10 program that it's just, sometimes you just have that background, you're like, that can't sound, and a lot of people fall for it, and a lot of people call, and a lot of people unfortunately lose out on earnest money and things like that, because they didn't have someone representing them that actually kind of knew these things. It's tough right now for that community.
Thank you for that. Anybody else have a question? If you want to unmute your line or just type it in the chat real quick. Carlos said he's open.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So when I first met Carlos, probably give or take 4 years ago, I knew he was going to make it, because it's very different than the average new agent. I mean, he wore a suit to work every day. He had 2 assistants hired before anybody would say that makes any kind of sense. He has, he's got a website, professional, looks like a business, looks like he owns his own brokerage. It's very, all those things. He's very intentional in his business. I think a lot of agents show up and kind of like, well, maybe I'll call some people. I hope somebody calls me. Carlos is very intentional, and the expression, dress for the job you want. That's not, I don't mean that literally, but figuratively. He created the business that he wanted to have, and it was all very intentional. So that's the one thing that I would say is, anybody out there looking, take some risks, look at his website, compare it to yours, and just think which person would you go with if you were a buyer or a seller. That's just my 2 cents there.
No, I appreciate the feedback, Sam. I mean, that one of my questions was what sets you apart from your competition? And that was one of the questions I didn't get a chance to ask Carlos. And I think that summarizes it nicely. It's how he shows up. It's what he, thinks about, how he operates his team, and he's very caring in how he looks at his business. So I love that. I love that about you too, Carlos. You showed up and you were, even if you were not hitting the goals that you had set out to do, you at least were showing up that way with the intention to be the top producer. So I love that. Anybody else have a question? Candace, did you have any questions that we didn't cover for Carlos?
Well, I actually did have a question, but he actually kind of responded and answered it. I was curious to, from the point that you first started and developed your system, and this is more around the lines of your set days for showings, and how did you come about, finding that system? So obviously you found something that worked, and then you stay within alignment of that. If it's outside of that, then it might not work. And I just know that a lot of times for me, even I'll go outside of that alignment and I already know it's not going to work. And sure enough, here I am in the situation and I'm showing 50 homes because I didn't stay true to my system and what I know it works. So I commend you for that. And yeah, you kind of answered it. So
that was great. Awesome. Well, we were fed with a lot of good knowledge. Hopefully you guys took a few notes down. I think Sam's right. He's an open book. You'll see Carlos in one of the offices. And congratulations, Carlos, on purchasing your first home. He purchased down in Pierce County, and he is off to the races. I think that was one of your goals last year was, I'm going to buy something, and your team all got behind you, and whatever we got to do to get him to that home ownership goal. So very exciting. Congratulations on your home purchase. That just happened the last, 30 days?
Yeah, correct.
Probably still unboxing things at this point.
Exciting.
It's very cool.
Well, again, but Sam, thank you so much for that. It means the world to me that you say that and you think that. Candace, you're amazing. And thank you for all of your group and all of that, getting to connect with you. It's been amazing. But really, I happen to be placed here in Linwood, and I get to see how hard the Linwood team here with Eric and what he does in getting amazing agents into our firm. I would just say, Rochelle and Shannon, to the whole team, to Yen, to everyone, thank you so much. Tara, thank you so much for what you guys do for us. I brag about our firm when I can, and when people will listen, I let them know that this is the best choice, and I know everyone here would agree with that. I am so lucky that I get to use the offices. I am so lucky that I have a broker that answers the phone. I am so lucky that we have these Monday nights to just process things out loud. I'm so lucky that we have small groups for everything that we do. So thank you for empowering me to go do my job. I know I'm lucky. So thank you.
Awesome. We got a lot of thank yous. So thanks for taking the time. Sounds like she's very grateful too. He's got 10 gratitude things right off the bat. That's what makes a really good, strong agent as well, that they give back in that way. So have a great week, you guys. We'll see you next Monday. Looking forward to wrapping up April. So let's get into May. Looking forward to it.